Namaskar and welcome to this exciting show of Sattology, debunking mythology. And today we are talking about the role ideology plays in data and technology. And believe me, before any software is made, the first thing that is made is why it is meant for, why this software is made, what is the purpose, and what benefit it can give to the people. So it does play a big role. And as you see in the recent times right now, the apps are particularly used to gather information to suit a particular ideology. Apps are made to work for a particular ideology. And the media companies, they use the data with their own analysis to interpret in their own way, thereby creating an ideology. It has played a big role in the modern times in building an ideology of a particular or suiting an ideology of a particular group of people. So technology is black and white, zeros and ones, but how we interpret it defines what they are used for. So without any delay, I would like to introduce all of you to Professor C.P. Singh, who has come on this show once again. The last time you liked this show, and so we're going to continue on that topic. And I think particularly what you liked was your surprise at the articulation of an Indian professor for an American audience. So without delay, let's welcome Professor C.P. Singh. Namaskar.
Namaskar to all listeners and dear friend Aditya, Satsangi, and
Professor C.P. Singh, your voice was not very clear. There was a delay in the voice.
so is that audible now? Is that clear?
Yeah, it is okay.
So I said namaskar to you, your team, and the students who are tuned in.
Okay. So, Professor, one thing you gave a very interesting topic, and you are a historian and you have also done a lot of research on other things in your personal capacity. So, why do you think that data technology makes a big impact on the ideology of people or the communities?
First, let me make some corrections about my personal introduction. In the traditional sense of the term, I am not a student of history, but actually, I would consider myself at the maximum a student of the current times. So, what is happening around in my country and rest of the world, I just try to connect the apparently unconnected things. And I understand that this is the job of a professor. His job is to connect the things that appear to be apparently unconnected. In that sense, you can call me not a professor, but a student of contemporary happenings who is interested in connecting the apparently unconnected. It's quite longish uh, introduction, but that's it. So I'll request you to come with your question again.
So, what is the role of ideology on data and technology, or how does data
Fantastic.
technology affect ideology?
All right. So the question is, so how does the technology affect ideology, and what is the role of ideology in shaping data and technology? Am I right?
That's right.
The original process to begin with in human civilization was technology, data, and ideology. Technology is generally seen as extensions of human beings. For example, this mobile, the internet, and the other intermediary technology that we are using to connect with each other are extensions of our eyes, are extensions of our ears, and they are extensions of our tongues. And with the help of the technology, you are able to gather data more than what you would have gathered by just using your eyes, your perceptory organs, your ears, your nose, your skin, or other limbs, for example, hands and legs, etc. So technology acts as extensions to human capacities, and it allows you to gather more information, more data, and based on data, when you connect the data, you are able to develop perspectives. But till few hundred years ago, technology was not very advanced, particularly communication technology. So it took 100 years, 50 years or more for the data to double. Today, because of communication technologies and the convergence of communication technologies, data are doubling maybe in 24 to 48 hours, depending upon the kind of communication equipment or communication penetration, telecommunication penetration you have in that society. But globally, it is doubling maybe most likely in 48 hours. So we are having more and more data. So imagine what happened with Marx, for example, or what happened with Islamic missionaries 1400 years ago, or what happened with the Christian missionaries 2000 years ago, or maybe 1700 years ago. Technology, particularly communication technology, was not changing fast. So the data was not changing much. Since the data remained the same, when you connected the apparently unconnected data, the perspective also did not change. The interconnections between data gives you certain perspective to look at the issues that you are faced with, be it pertaining to a security, pertaining to your existence, pertaining to the threats, pertaining to your food, pertaining to the rains, pertaining to the kind of maybe invasions that you could anticipate. All such things were very, very limited in terms of change over a period of time. So, since data did not change much, it took hundreds of years or decades to double. The perspective that you developed by connecting the data supplied with very underdeveloped or less developed communication technology, the perspective that you had became the perspective. When a perspective becomes the perspective, it takes the shape of ideology. And in due course of time, it becomes a belief. It might have originated with scientific discoveries. It might have originated with the use of telephones or telegraph or maybe other instruments. But since it did not change for a long time, it became a belief. And then, in between, technologies kept on marching ahead. But since you turned the ideology into belief, you lost the capacity to interpret more data that were more in terms of amount, in terms of variety with which they were being created and transported from one end to another end. So, to start with, ideology was created by technology leading to data collection, creation, communication, and the development of a perspective that became the perspective over time, because data was not changing because of unchanging technology for a long time, and that ideology turned into belief, and that belief did not allow itself to be changed because those who believed in that ideology developed vested interests. That applies to Islam that you see today, and that applied to Christianity
So let me
till the emergence of Renaissance in Europe. Yes, please.
let me a little bit interrupt you here. Now we see the media, especially in the world, all over the world, is being taken over by the Marxist and leftist ideologies. And there we see
Yes.
the use of technology, especially in tools like Facebook and Twitter, is to silence the voice of the rational thought. And the rational thought is being subdued by deplatformization. Now, if
All
it
right.
was the deplatformization has become the biggest threat to free speech, especially within the USA as well as in India also nowadays, because the Twitter India regularly deplatformizes people who try to speak the truth or actually defend what they were accused of. Organizations in India like NDTV and organizations in the US like CNN, the leading proponents of the leftist Marxist
Can
thought.
you hear me?
Yes, I can
All
hear
right.
you. So these are
All
the
right.
leading proponents of the leftist Marxist thought. And because of
All right.
such individuals, the technology is also used in a way to promote that ideology. So technology has become a big thing in the hands of these Marxist organizations to use against to silence the voice of, in America you call conservatives, and in India you called nationalists. But sometimes now with the demise of globalization, the nationalism has taken to the fore. Every country is trying to feed themselves first. Now, in that era of change in the political ideology, the technology is playing a crucial role and is being used by the leftist organization to retain their control. What do you have to say on that?
All right. In fact, you have explained things and you have questions, and at the same time, you have answered the same. So I have to put it differently. As I said, originally it was technology, data, perspectives, and ideology. Because perspective became the perspective over a period of when the perspective was not changing because of availability of, or sorry, uh, changing data for a long time. What has happened now? Those who have developed vested interest in the maintenance of a particular ideology control over the resources, economic resources, and the other wings of establishment, for example, educational institutions, judiciary, bureaucracy, media, etc. So they developed vested interest in this, and they have tried to reverse the flow of information. Earlier it was from technology to data to perspective to ideology. Now it is the death, at least for the Frankfurt school of Marxists or so-called liberal secular Marxists who have also joined hands with the jihadis globally, and most prominent they are in their alliance in the US, Europe, and India. For them, it is ideology. The ideology is to be used to collect the data that will justify the ideology. Look at the very unscientific nature of the process. Unscientific nature in the sense that you are not collecting data to test your hypothesis. You are not collecting data to uh, develop perspectives. Rather, you are collecting data selectively using technology to collect data selectively that is aimed at drawing the line of your ideology. That is what is the reversed process in
Sorry, viewers, I think the connection got lost.
sense
Uh,
of secular liberal. I am able to hear you. Should I repeat my point?
yes, please.
I said that in the hands of the secular liberal critical theorists belonging to the Frankfurt School globally that had shifted to America from Germany after the onset of the Second World War, and they were all young Marxists. In their hands, the natural flow of information that had important role to be played through the use of first technology, data, and then perspective and ideology is now being reversed. They decide first. The conclusion that in conformity with their ideology in such a way that only that kind of data which support their ideology. So what they are doing in terms of research methods or in terms of scientific method of collecting and analyzing data, they are unscientific because they are victims of narrative-led data collection. I repeat, they are victims of data collection. In the earliest stages of technological development, when technology was not much developed, it was the flow was simple scientific technology to data to perspective and knowledge. And we have moved from mass communication to massive interactive communication, as communication is riding today on mobile, internet, and social media and other interactive technological platforms. We have got information or digital footprints of people, places, activities to an extent that you are able to provide customized solutions. So now there is, as far as possibility is concerned, now there is not the solution as ideology was handing out to us. Now there are many solutions available to various kinds of problems. The problems that might have some similarity, but they would have their own specifics. Within America, for example, you might have different issues associated with different problems ranging from one state to another, and ranging from one time zone to another time zone, ranging from morning to lunchtime to evening. That amount of data are available to us. And because of huge amount of data and the speed that with which data are communicated from one end to another, and because of interactivity that has been facilitated through the interactive digital platforms, the ideologies are being challenged. These ideologies are being challenged, and their control over the resources and institutions have also been challenged, not by the people who are experts, no, the people who are commons, the people who are commoners. They have got mobile and internet. at their disposal. They have got many apps at their disposal, and they are able to call the bluff of the so-called professors, so-called experts who were living in their own ivory towers. So what is the situation? Now the people have got more dependable data that is dispersed across time and space, but is available at the click of the button. That is on the one hand. And on the other, there are so-called experts who are ideology driven, who are motivated, who have been controlling the academic institutions, the think tanks, the judiciary, the governments. Their narrative are in minority. And they are also having less data, because even if you are thousand in number, even if you are lakh or 100,000 in number, there are, for example, in America, more than 300 million people. And these 300 million people, through their mobile and riding on the internet, riding on different apps that they are collectively having more information, and they are having now a basket of perspectives. For every problem, there would be a basket of perspectives, and these perspectives are different solutions depending upon different specifics for a group, for a person, for an institution, for a reason, for a country, etc. So actually what is happening in the world today is there is class of interests. The so-called experts and professors and intellectuals, they had developed a vision. You can call them a vision of the advantage, vision of the people who lived in their ivory tower. Now, their vision that was developed based on limited data is being challenged by a basket of visions, basket of perspectives that have been developed by people spread across time and space within a country and globally. That is why they are crying foul. They are losing the war of information. They are losing the credibility. And as far as I understand, in the next 5 years, they are going to lose their credibility in a big way, because technology is a great leveler. Technology is a bulldozer. Either you are riding on the technology, either you are with the technology, or you have to be ready to be bulldozed by the technology. To start with, using your political power, institutional power, you might misuse the technology to collect only the kind of data that supports your narrow vision, that's it, ideology. But in
One
the long run, more and more people, in a democracy particularly, would be armed with more and more useful data, and they are going to challenge you. So we are moving from, because of more data available, because of more availability of advanced communication technologies that are less of mass communication and they are more interactive. We are moved from mass communication, that is MC, to MIC, massive interactive communication through the digital platforms. Mostly you can call it internet, mobile, and other social media interactive platforms. So we have moved from the age of ideology to the age of a basket of perspectives. We are certain, we are destined to move from the age of narrative-led data gathering to data-led narrative making. So we are in for good times, and actually we are in the age of transition, where people who held power, they were microscopic, but they wielded tremendous power. Now they are on their way down, and that is why so much of hallabalu, so much of crying foul you hear from them. And and it was reflected in the US also uh, during the movement that started after the incidental death of a person who happened to be black at the hands of a police officer, and how that was a narrative by the leftists and jihadis joining hands to attack the democratic forces. But when more and more information started surfacing that they were actually looting, they were engaging in arson and violence, and they were themselves behaving in a racial manner by attacking the white people. So their narrative got defeated in no time, within 2 weeks. That is, they started with narrative led data. The war started with narrative led data, and the war ended with data led narrative in the US itself in a span, in
I'd like
a
to
very
interrupt you,
immediate past.
Reshma, here. I'd like to interrupt you for 1 second. So the case of you laid out the case of BLM movement, which is very much funded by the Democrats in the U.S. and very leftist forces in the U.S. One last point I would like to make here is that that particular incident of occupying part of Seattle was ended yesterday by the police, and because the facts are coming out that the many parts of the Democrats establishment supported the BLM movement, so it was more like a politicized movement to somehow criticize Trump administration and also affect elections in a big way in the affect elections in a big way in the US in November 2020. But coming back to the point of data-based narrative creation, what you're saying is partly looks like the academic left and the academic Marxism and the Islamism hiding behind them, trying to take over the movement. But that's the evil face behind it. So that is a big movement going on. Most of the Americans realize it, but it will take time because the mainstream media is controlled by the leftists and the Marxist organizations. So one last comment from you, and we end the topic here. Uh, Please go ahead.
I will like to respond to it with the help of two concepts. And since I'm told that there are students and teachers tuned in to the program, it is good that we talk in terms of concepts. What happened in the US and what is happening even globally, including India. In India, it had started in the way of anti-CIA movement. That was the Citizenship Amendment Act, which gave a priority to the award of citizenship to those living in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, who was including Hindus, Christians, Parsis, Buddhists, Muslims. And their number, for example, in Pakistan has gone down from maybe 20% to 1.5% to 2%. And in Bangladesh, their number has gone down from about 30% or so to around 7 to 8%. So it was a very democratic, it was a very human act, it was a very just act, but it was being opposed. And it has happened, it's taken this shape in the US and other parts. How are they doing this? What is their method? And how, as a researcher, how as an academic, how as a seeker of truth, we are going to address this issue? What the Frankfurt School people do, what the Marxist activists in the guise of professors and academicians have been doing for over, I would like to say now, nearly 100 years. They put up an exception. They will try to pick up an exception, and they will try to generalize the findings of the exception. And when you are generalizing the exception, you are actually committing violence on the mainstream. Actually, rules always have certain exceptions. So exceptions have to be in place and they have to be treated accordingly. Rules and generalizations have to be in place and they have to be treated accordingly. So in terms of method, they are very unscientific. They pick up an exception and try to prove it as a rule. And when you do that, there is essentially a conflict in society because millions and millions of other people do not find it in sync with their experience. For example, Americans, millions of them, whether the Republic or the Democrats, would not find it in sync with them that they are doing injustice to the people, to the black living in their neighborhood. Their experience will not justify it, but there will be a narrative. An exception will be picked up to generalize it. So methodologically, you can call it, it is exceptionalization of the mainstream and mainstreaming of the exception. So when they are coming to you with data or with facts, try to look at the truth behind it, which is not apparent. Have they come to you with the truth or they have come to you with chosen, selected facts? If they have come to you with chosen, selected facts, and if that is aimed to counter the mainstream and they are trying to mainstream the exception, that is going to lead to the violence. First, it will prepare the ground for violence in terms of your thought process in academic institutions, in their PhD, in their research projects, in the theorization, and later through politics, it will create permanent violence in the society. The coexistence will be challenged. In the Chicago school, for example, which is quite in tune with the Hindu or Sanatan thinking of coexistence, when you say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam or Eko Sadvipra Bahudha Vadanti, the whole world is a village and truth is one but is interpreted differently by the wise. The Chicago school of critical theory, that it said that the communication media, through communication, it was mass communication, particularly television and newspapers, they were taking as study platforms. They said that it will create community because of mass communication. And once they create community, there will be created commonality of interest. And once there is a commonality of interest created, then a community will be able to be raised that will be compassionate towards its members. And that sense of community had been, attacked. It has been turned into barren. It had been devastated during the process of industrialization. And a great poet, T.S. Eliot, had addressed this in his very famous poem, the Wasteland. And the poem ends with Upanishadic sentence, Om Vanaspataya Shanti, Prakriti Shanti, Om Santi Shanti Shanti. That is the call for coexistence, not only amongst human beings, but also the other elements of the nature. So even if you are going to the critical theory, there is an example in America itself, that is the Chicago School of Critical Theory, which was talking about coexistence, which was talking about community building through the use of mass media. Now that community building is all the more possible with the use of interactive communication, with the use of social media, with the use of digital platforms, where there is one-to-many communication, from many to many communication, and all ways of communication are available to you in no time.
Yeah,
So it
Professor,
is
we are at the top of the hour. Yes, Professor, we are at the top of the hour, and you mentioned some important things like coexistence, and I would like to say respectful coexistence, not the tolerating coexistence.
Yes, thank you, thank you. It's a
At
great
this
point.
point, I'll end the discussion here. And we all
Thank
believe in respectful coexistence, not tolerating coexistence. And with that, we'll end the show here. Thank you, all of you, for watching. And thank you, Professor C.P. Singh, for speaking so enthusiastically and making your point very forcefully across the audience. There have been many questions, but sorry, the time is up. In the video, when it goes on YouTube, you can ask the questions there. And meanwhile, Professor C.P. Singh will be back sometime next week, and then we can discuss with him more. Namaskar, and thank you for watching Sattology. We all are doing debunking mythology.
you, students and teachers. And thank you, Mr. Aditya Satsangi, your team at Sattology, and the technical team. Thank you very much. It was nice speaking to you, talking to you. Thank you, and thank you for your questions.